Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this evening for the debate that is put on by your Buffalo Bulletin. We appreciate them and we appreciate you for being here, and we appreciate the candidates not only for running for office, which is tough under any circumstance, but being here for the question. My name is Mark Bentley and I'll be your moderator.
I'd like to thank the Buffalo Bulletin for this opportunity and the folks that are here this evening. I am Steve Kozisek, running for re-election as your sheriff. I've served as your sheriff for the last 12 years. I've been with the sheriff's office for 35 years. I started off working as a patrol deputy, working in the jail, eventually became a criminal investigator, and then was appointed under sheriff and was elected sheriff. I have a lot of training and experience in the sheriff's office. It includes, administration, supervision of personnel, jail issues and liability issues there, search and rescue, and of course, naturally, all the general law enforcement information. Over the past 12 years, I think I have come to understand the duties and responsibilities of the office of sheriff. I've worked very hard to develop a good working relationship with the KC and the Buffalo Police Department and other law enforcement agencies, along with other emergency responders, and of course the agencies that we have to work with in collaboration on our cases.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Angie, Lloyd-McHenry. Thank you for all being here tonight to listen to everything that we have to say. The position for sheriff of your county is very, very important and one that is not to be taken lightly. I have been with the Sheriff's Department and the Buffalo Police Department for the last 9 years. I served as a road deputy for the Sheriff's Department and then moved on to the Police Department, where I worked as an SRO, or School Resource Officer, with all of your kids throughout the community. And then for the last 2 years, I've been the criminal investigator for the Police Department. I have a lot of experience as far as being on the street, handling cases, working on some high-profile cases with the county attorney, and taking care of business where it needs to be. I've also worked with you and your children, and you know that I'm honest and reliable, and I'm willing to get the job done.
My name's Richard Burridge, and I'll get right to the point. I'm running for sheriff. I have 23 years on as a state trooper with the Wyoming Highway Patrol. I've been 20 years here in Buffalo with your community, serving as a state trooper, and I'm currently a state trooper. I believe that the next sheriff better very well be constitutionally minded. I think sheriff is the most important law enforcement in the county, and he has to be looking out for your constitutional rights. He has to enforce the laws equally amongst everybody, and he has to stand up by the people, for the people, if that time ever comes. And I guarantee you that I will.
The last time you ran, you said it would be your last time. What changed your mind?
I'm kind of like Brett Favre, the Green Bay Packers come out of retirement. I enjoy getting up and going to work every morning. I go to work about 7 o'clock, I go home 4:35. I enjoy my job. I believe I put together a very good team of deputies, a workforce. I'm too young to retire, folks. I'm only 65 years old, and to say that when you turn 65 or 66, you're too old to do the job, well, I disagree. I believe that I've done a great job, and I want to continue. I have no desire to sit back in a rocking chair. So,
I think that Johnson County has run very well for the last 12 years. I don't think that that Sheriff Kozisek is wrong in saying what he has done for everyone that is within our county. But I also believe that change is a good thing. And I think that with the way the world is now in the century that we're in, it's good to have change. Technology's coming in, people are different, our kids are different, lifestyles are different, and with that change, our community is going to be safer, and I think work better with all the people involved.
I think his years of service is commendable and notable, and I respect that greatly. However, I think when you're in a position like as a sheriff, a leader, just compare it to a can of soda pop. You open up the lid, after a while it starts losing its sizz. I believe we do need a little bit of change, some new ideas, some fresh ideas, and I'm going to be bringing fresh ideas. I'm going to be looking at getting volunteer deputies, not post-certified, but volunteers for community events, not just in Buffalo, but in KC. I want to start up a youth mentoring program, something that is ran by the Sheriff's Department for some of these youth, especially the ones that are having a hard time, could be with the deputies and get some good leadership out of them. Firearms familiarization class for women and of all ages, the young and the older ones. I believe they have a right to protect themselves, and I think every woman should have a gun in her purse. The communications between agencies, Highway Patrol, DCI, Sheriff.
Yeah, I'd like to just rebut. I do appreciate Angie's nice words and Richard's, but, you know, 6 years ago, people in the United States voted for a man out of Illinois. Going to bring change to our country. And look where we're at today, folks. The Fizz hasn't left the Sheriff's Office. We're still there. We're still adapting. We're still working with our kids. All these programs sound nice. All these promises sound great. When you look at the results that I put out there for the last 12 years, for the last 35 years, being committed to each of you and to your families and to your children, I believe my record stands. I'll stand on that. Thank you.
You spent your entire career as a patrol officer. What do you see in the supervisory role in managing such a large budget and staff?
I have spent most of my time as a patrol deputy and PD officer on the street. I also, before I got into law enforcement, worked in the veterinary field, and I managed and ran a very large animal hospital. I had employees underneath me, worked on the budget, ordering, those kinds of things. I'm familiar with that. I also have a background in business education and accounting. Managing a budget is only as good as the people that you have working with you as well. It's also making sure that the monies are spent from our taxpayers to the best that we can for Johnson County. And that is communication with all the people that we have in the county to make sure that our issues are being dealt with, our people are being managed, if you will, and that our budget is being used the way it should be. There are a lot of issues within the budget. It's something that you'd have to look into. I can't say anything about the past budget. I was not involved with that, but I can say that I would be accountable for the employees of Johnson County and for our budget now.
I'm all for fiscal responsibility. I think it's stupid not to be. I do have the budget, what the sheriff has been doing. There's a couple little items just from looking at the plain paper here with the numbers that I just kind of question. Like meals for the inmates, close to $70,000 to feed, and I'm giving an average maybe 12 inmates, and the sheriff could correct me if I'm wrong. And then for the price of the cook, $30,000 a year for the cook. I think it should be, some other options should be looked at. I think we should look at outsourcing it, and I think we should look at some of the options as in having meals ready to eat, and all you do is put it in a warmer. I think there's other options. That's just one little piece of it, and that's what I'm going to do is look to see where we could actually save money. Ultimately, it's our money, whether it comes from grants from the federal government or not. It's our tax money, one way or the other. It gets back.
Thank you.
Well, the budget's a very difficult thing to talk about sometimes, but I can tell you right now, every year for the past 12 years, I submitted a budget to the county commissioners. And my budget has said, this is what I need to run the sheriff's office and the detention center in a legal and constitutional manner. There is a constitution called the 8th Amendment that says cruel and unusual punishment shall not be inflicted upon any person, specifically inmates in jails. Unfortunately, our court systems decide what's cruel and unusual. So you have to serve them 3 nutritionally based meals every day. Our cost is $4.25 per meal per inmate. Before we got our own kitchen, and that includes our cooks, our foods, and all of our non-food items. So before that, we were getting our meals, we're paying $6.50. So we're saving, you know, a couple bucks every day on a meal per inmate. So in addition, we don't have any outside housing costs now, but our budget has been down this year in both the detention and the sheriff's office. The budget was down.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay, thank you.
It is extremely important to be fiscally responsible because it is your money as the taxpayers. And yes, there have been a larger expense with the new facility that we have. We have a lot more inmates in there. But I know factual basis that The lieutenant in the jail has checked on food costs, has done as much as possible. I'm sure that's been with the sheriff's help, but he is the one that's taken care of that and made sure that prices are down or compatible or comparable. Are there things that need to be looked at? Absolutely. And we need to be accountable and responsible for it all.
You said that being a patrol sheriff would be one of your primary responsibilities. How will that improve the sheriff's department, and how do you plan to manage a department of this size and be a patrolling officer?
We don't have a large population base in Johnson County. I don't see any reason why I can't be a working sheriff out on the road. I do understand that I have to be in the office. There's going to be times where I have to be in there for a couple of days. But being on the road, being with your deputies, working different shifts with your deputies, there's no reason why a sheriff should just be working a day shift. I think a sheriff should be more available to the public and seen in the public. I think he needs to be in a marked vehicle with a light bar outside of the vehicle, for that he is very well recognized of where he's at. I don't believe in vehicles without markings, and I never have. I see this county is perfect for a working sheriff, and I do stand by that. I don't see how I can't be a working sheriff. The sheriff has surrounded himself with people in the office that run it very well. I wouldn't go in there to destroy that, not by no means. And it gives an opportunity for a sheriff to be a working sheriff.
You know, I am a working sheriff, folks. I split my time between patrolling and being in the office. There are days, like yesterday was one of those days where I was in the office quite a bit. Today I was out of the office, in and out of it. We've got the fair and rodeo going in. So I am a working sheriff. I do split my time. That comes from my experience and my background, and knowing what I can and can't do, what needs to be done. Over the past 35 years, I've worked every fair and rodeo in Johnson County. Even when my wife was undergoing cancer treatment, I came back and went to work. I've worked at Crystal Dews the last 3 years. That's been going on. I know when to work and when I don't need to work. I got supervisors that look over the night shifts and the day shifts, and keep the deputies on looking at what they're doing. I also am surrounded by some good hands, and I appreciate the work that they do. So I am a working sheriff. I do split my time between both office and administration duties, jail duties, and patrolling.
I think it's possible to be a working sheriff, but I also think that you have administrative duties as well. Is it possible to be out there and be on the road and help or take shifts if need be because someone's sick or on vacation? Absolutely, but there are a lot of administrative duties that need to be taken care of as a sheriff. As I said before at the forums, you are actually running a business now as the sheriff, because it's not only your deputies and detention officers that you have to worry about. You're working with search and rescue, you're working with the mental health facilities, with DFS, with county fire, with everybody involved, and you need to limit your time to how much you're on the road and how much you're in the office and make sure that it's equal.
I think a leadership responsibility of a working sheriff, when I was in the Marine Corps, it's about as simple as this. Our leaders went out with us into the field. They led to the battles. They led us. They're right out there getting muddy with us. I think there's no better leadership than a person that is willing to get out and get muddy, face the same dangers as his deputies. Holidays, some of our major holidays. A working sheriff that's out there working a working holiday, it gives more coverage. It allows him to go out, and I think it's real important that he works with his guys to see what his men are doing and his women, what they are doing, if they're doing anything wrong or getting any bad habits, and vice versa. The deputies watch the sheriff. If the sheriff starts doing some bad stuff, he should be held accountable by his deputies also.
Johnson County is the 6th least populated county in the state, yet your budget is slightly above the median for all of the counties except the largest. Please explain why you feel a budget this size is necessary.
Well, I didn't realize Johnson County was the 6th least populated county in the state to begin with. As I stated earlier, you know, our budget is what I need to operate on. If you look at our budget, our deputies got pay raises this year, and if you take that away from what we budgeted last year, we're still about, I think, about $6,000 under budget than what we were last year on our general operating expense. By that I mean, What's it cost us for tires? What's it cost us for fuel? What does it cost us for those kind of items? But you also got to realize we may not be at the 6th least populated county in the state, but we're one of the largest too. We have recreation areas from the Bighorn Mountains to the Powder River to Lake DeSmet. You know, we've got 2 major interstates running through here. So our population may be, base may be small, but in the summertime on weekends, it probably doubles, I bet. So when those people come, they like to party, they like to drink, and they have issues that we have to deal with. So we need a budget that we can operate on. My budget is, like I say, $6,000 under what it was last year for operation costs. And we continue to go down. We continue to look at ways that we can cut our budgets and save money.
I can't speak for what the budget was in the past. Like I said earlier, I wasn't involved in that. I can be held accountable for what the budget would be in the future. The budget's set in July for the following year. So even coming in as a new sheriff, that budget is already set. There are things that you can't account for, such as vehicle expenditures and those sorts of things. Those are things that happen that you need to work with. However, we are the 6th lowest in Wyoming. It's definitely something that needs to be looked at and taken into account for. Where is the money being spent, and are there ways that we can work on the costs to be spent in a more efficient manner for the county?
Well, I think the budget is what it is right now because you've got a real nice place to take care of. I think the deputies are worth every penny that they get paid. I think you get what you pay for. They're paid good, and it should remain that way. I think you have to look into the future with the budget, and I'll just bring up a couple things. Comp time. Deputies aren't allowed to get overtime until they hit 470 or 80 hours of comp. What you're doing there, when he retires down the line, if he started at $8 an hour, when he goes to retire 20 years from now, you're going to have to pay him time and a half for comp time, but now he's making $23 an hour. You're not looking out for the sheriff 20 years down the road. That needs to be changed. These men earned it, and that's the way they came in and hired on, but I think it needs to be fixed now. The new guys coming on needs to go on to a different system where they can only carry comp time up until the fiscal year is done. Inmates, federal inmates, we're supposed to get them coming in to help defer some of this.
Thank you.
$0.
As I stated earlier, our budget is going down. You can't estimate what fuel costs are going to be. You wreck one vehicle, the way the county's self-insured, you're out of the vehicle, you know, $35,000. So, you know, we just look at what we can cut, how much money that we actually need to operate this jail, our sheriff's office and jail. We operate in a legal manner. We have a setup where we can respond to service calls for service, and we just do the best we can. Our budget is, I don't believe, out of line. It keeps going down each year. We continue to look for ways that we can cut costs and training in different areas. So, as far as our jail budget goes, we don't hold federal prisoners. I don't even know if there's any federal prisoners to be available because I don't have a contract with the federal government anymore. When we moved into our new facility, we canceled that. Or actually, we canceled it before we left our old facility because we didn't have room. So we haven't even looked into holding federal prisoners. To do that, you have to meet certain federal regulations and guidelines.
Thank you. You said that juvenile crime prevention is an important tenet of the budget. Presuming the county commissioners don't increase the budget, please outline the programs you would like to implement that deal with juvenile crime prevention and where you plan to make cuts to pay for those.
When you're working with the juveniles, and I think actually, Mark, what I said was that we need to really work with the juveniles within our community and see if we can come up with other things for them to do besides alcohol and drugs. Essentially, we have a juvenile mentoring program that was started. The county attorney, the police department, the sheriff's office, mental health, we're all in a liaison from the school, we're all part of that. We have a coordinator for that mentoring program. They work with our youth and our juveniles, and we've come up with youth nights, play days, those kinds of things. I don't think that it's a far outreach to say that the deputies and police officers need to be more involved with kids at the Boys and Girls Club level, in the schools, in the classrooms, helping with the teachers, and using some of our own time to get involved with them so that they understand that we are humans, that we are actually people too, that we're not somebody that's just there to throw someone in jail or get them in trouble. that we're there to help them and we can be a safe place for that. There are lots of grant money out there. There are federal monies available. You have to be willing to work hard and look for those to help out our youth, and they're worth it.
Are you saying that you would not have to cut the budget in order to do it?
No, I don't believe you would.
Provide the money for that?
I don't believe you would.
My opening statements with a youth program, cut budget to get money to do it. That's what I would use volunteer deputies for. We got a lot of retired officers in this community, and they want nothing more to participate as for like traffic control or at the rodeo or special events like the door, and let the deputies get out in the county and work instead of standing around on the street and doing that type of work. If something comes up, then they can call the deputies in. But look at Laramie County. Look at the stuff that they're doing with their youth from 14 to 21-year-olds. They're called, I think, the Sheriff Department Explorers, and they work with the volunteer deputies. They work at events. They have a communication with the local deputies that's on full active duty and that are mentoring them. I think it's a good program, and I think it could be done with minimal money.
You know, I agree with Angie. Kids are very important to us in our community here. I've worked with kids my whole career here, and we do have a lot of good programs. We've got the Boys and Girls Club that reaches out to kids. We've got our mentoring program. Those are good programs. But I think we need to go a little bit further. I think we need to do more education in our school systems about the troubles with alcohol and drugs. We need to do more parental education about those same issues, you know. As far as bringing in all these reserve deputies, I think people need to understand you bring in a reserve deputy, he has to have peace officer status, he has to have a uniform, he has to have a firearm, he has to have workers' comp, he has to have everything a regular deputy does. There is expenses to that. So those programs are not cost-free, but our kids are important. I think more things we can do, more programs that we have to educate our children into those issues that affect them, that we can do better.
Rich's program that he talked about with volunteer deputies and everything, that's a great idea. However, I am the chairperson for the board for our mentoring program that we have now. And there is liability with anyone who works with kids. And you're not only talking about the kids, but you're also talking about their parents and people within the community. So the liability issues in order to run a program like that would be astronomical. It would be something that you would really have to check into to make sure that those kids are safe. Education in the schools, we have our DARE programs that we teach in the schools. It's also very, very difficult because our schools have curriculum that they have got to teach. And I think there are a lot of times that our kids are going to experience something before they're going to listen to it. But if we're out there with them, doing activities with them, they're going to learn more about that as us being people.
Your entire law enforcement career has been spent as a patrolman. Please outline your supervisory experience and budgetary experience and how you plan to bridge the gap.
By the Hatchet Act, if I was in any type of budget stuff, I couldn't even run for sheriff, so that would have left me out. So obviously, I'm not involved with making budgets for the Wyoming Highway Patrol. I looked into that just to make sure I could run legally. My experience as a supervisor with the state of Wyoming, I'm number 2 seniority in the whole state. I'm number 2 senior patrolman. When my supervisors leave this area, they leave me in charge, not just Johnson County, but Sheridan County. I am the one that they call when something bad happens, or if somebody has something that they need to report, something went wrong, or if they're going to be taking sick leave, or anything like that. It's the end of the week paperwork, I'm in charge to take care of that. Get back with the volunteer deputies. Volunteer deputies, I just read the law, are exempt from being post-certified as long as they're volunteers, they're not getting money from it. I just wanted to clear that up since I couldn't rebuttal the rebuttal.
What do you plan to do to bridge the gap in the lack of specific experience in budgets and in direct supervision? How would you deal with that?
Well, if I got in there and I couldn't figure out the budget, obviously I would hire myself a person that is capable of doing it. You know, I don't do budgets, but I think a good sheriff would, like the sheriff does currently, he surrounds himself with people that does it, and he makes the final decision. And with the decision of the sheriff, when you make a decision, you stick with it. If it doesn't work, and you can't be afraid to dump it and make another decision that will work.
I was very fortunate. I came up through the ranks of the sheriff's office and gained a lot of that experience. But I also took a lot of training on it also. And supervisory experience is dealing with people. And I think the biggest problem, or not problem, the biggest thing you have to do when dealing with personnel is communicate with them. Communicate your expectations of what you expect from them, and then follow through with those things. So, you know, without that experience, coming in and trying to run a department like the sheriff's office, it's going to be very difficult for someone without supervisory experience and someone without budget experience. You've got a lot of personnel you have to deal with, a lot of personnel issues, and that's probably one of the biggest headaches of the job, is dealing with those supervisory problems. So without that experience, without that background, without that training, you're starting off on a bad foot.
I think that surrounding yourself, especially coming in as a new sheriff with the experienced people that are there, is going to be extremely beneficial. The deputies that are in the sheriff's department now, especially as far as the supervisors that are there, know their business. They know what's going on in the sheriff's department, they know the budget, they know the road deputies and the detention officers, and I think communicating with them and working with them to build a bridge between yourself and the people that are working with you is going to help you to bridge that gap if you don't have the supervisory experience that you would need. I'm also very willing to study, to learn, to become educated in whatever means is necessary to make sure that the department is ran efficiently.
Supervisory experience, you know, the Highway Patrol trains our guys pretty good with supervisory school, that sooner or later we all have to go through it. There's schools that I've been put through that I didn't want to go to, like accident reconstruction, but I had to do it. The supervisor school was a very good school. We have even the FBI Academy that we go to. I have not been to that one though, so don't let me claim that. But I think with a good supervisor, you have to be black and white on your policies. Officers are held to a higher standard, and they have to know how far they could go and what might happen if they cross that line when it comes to discipline. And I do know the discipline rules. I do know that guys have a right to a hearing if they are getting disciplined or reduction in rank. Those rules have been very clear to me. I guess I just didn't understand your question at the beginning.
I know that I would be a good person for you all to vote in for Sheriff of Johnson County. I'm accountable. I have integrity. I've worked with a lot of you through the 9 years that I've been there, not only on the Sheriff's Department, but the Police Department. I've also worked with the people within our community and their children. And everything that I've said is going to happen or that I would be willing to do, I have done. I'm honest and I'm accountable and I'm reliable. So I'm asking for your vote in 2014, August 19th.
My life revolves around integrity. That's one of the most important things in my life is integrity. I expect the deputies to have integrity too. There'll be enough said about that. I think I come to this point in my life with my career of 23 years on the road, working mostly by myself when I'm dealing with other people. I think it's brought me to this point. I think you need someone strong that has a vision for the future and that's looking around our country and seeing what's going on, and not assume that just because we're in Buffalo or in KC that we're immune from anything. You need somebody that's going to look out, I'll just sort of speak, a watchman on the wall. We have to be ready. This day and age, we have to be ready, and you better make sure you have a sheriff that's going to stand with you when the time comes, if that time comes.
I'd like to close by saying, look at what's happened in the last 12 years as your sheriff. Even my opponents say I operate a good sheriff's department. I've got good employees working for me. I've got a great crew of people around me. I have the experience and the background to do the job. I've been doing the job. I also have transparency. A lot of people talk about the budget. Anybody wants to come in and sit down and talk about my budget, I can show you where every time my budget goes, both the jail and the patrol. So transparency is very important to me. Integrity is very important to me. I've never had my integrity questioned in 42 years of law enforcement experience. If there's a problem with one of my deputies, I would wish somebody would bring that to me and I'll address it. But I have the experience and the background to operate the sheriff's office. I've been operating for quite a while. You know, I've always said that I'm committed to the future of Johnson County, and I always will be. Thank you. And I'd like to vote on August 19th.